Okay. Yesh Malin, we're going to Mishnah again. There are a few important points over here. Yesh Malin es ha-mikvah v'loi poislin, poislin v'loi mailin, lo mailin v'loi poislin, elo mailin v'loi poislin. There are aspects of different kinds of things that fit into one category and not into the other, though they would have assumed that they should go hand in hand. I think that that's the way to discuss the Mishnah's issue. You know, we would have thought that the ones that are poislin are mylin, and the ones that are mylin are poislin, and there should not be any kinds of cases that they're mutually exclusive, and we're going to see that that is not the case. So, elo mylin v'loy poislin. These are myle, which means, as Shefer you would say, that they could be mashlim the mikvah. Are you asking to that reading?
Yes. Yes.
Doesn't it say machshir?
What does the word machshir mean?
The opposite of puzzle.
Yeah, no. I understand. I'd like to take a step back. If I have something which is unnamed, we'll call it a neutral thing. So I could say that if you add this to it, it'll become kosher, or you add this to it, it'll become puzzle or treif, whatever it may be. But if this is the kosher or puzzle thing, so it's not mylin, machshirin, or metamin. It's what it is. That is like I guess we call it an adjective, a halachic adjective. It's mylit, or I don't know what the right.
I'm saying it says below postlin. So you would have thought that it would have said.
Well, if it's not postal, so it's so why would you?
No, it's
Elo machshirin below
It's not
postlin.
machshir either. It's not machshir. It's just not postal. That doesn't mean it's machshir. The stuff is kosher. There's nothing wrong with the water right now. It's just chaser.
Malin means you give it more water, which brings
makes it 40 right.
Correct. I think Paris is
Malin.
no. It's the kosher. When we say kosher, we're talking about the same item and it switches statuses. This we said when we add this into it, it brings it to a different level. Right, Paris, am I quoting you properly?
That's not exactly what I was saying, but I was saying something else. But that's.
What were you saying?
No, he was saying that it's not doing anything to the mikveh. It is doing something to the mikveh.
Well, this is the question. Shlomo's question. I think it's a fair question. What does mylin mean, and what would the alternate word machshirin mean? Right. That's basically what you're asking, Shlomo, right?
I would have thought that, based on the wording of the Mishnah, that's the opposite side of it. Yeah. The first case isn't talking about when you have 40 of all of those things.
Well, that we're going to discuss shortly. But the pashtus is that that's not the simple case that we're talking about. The talking about is that you have 35 and you're adding in 5. That's.
I thought that was the end of. I thought that was the sefer.
No, the sefer says clearly that they started from 0.
Yesh arboim chaser achas. Nafal mehem sa letocha ve'lo nimtle malin below postlin. No, the sefer, the end of the sefer is real.
Okay. Ketza malin below postlin. Yeah. No.
So that's where you're missing something.
But that's the same lashon as over here in the Reisha.
I would say it's going back.
It doesn't say it, but it doesn't say you're missing anything in the Reisha. It doesn't say how much there is. It doesn't say any amount.
Well, if you're not missing anything, then you're not mala anything. If you
The question is, are these things kosher to begin with?
If you have 40
You're not sure. That's a question. What these things are?
This is
They're
going
not
on
the
the
usual things that you would have in a mikveh.
First Mishnah in Masechta is Sheif Malos b'mikveh. This one could bring it from one mala to the next mala.
That's true too, but I don't know if that's exactly what it means. But The beginning of the mikvah, the Mishnah, we're speaking about that there's a pool of water, of rainwater, that's choser shir. Now, what is such a thing's status? Is it kosher or puzzle? It's right.
It's not a mikvah.
So then it can't be kosher, right? Because kosher means that
fine.
Well, if you really, the truth of the matter is that if you learn the first Mishnah in the Masechta, so you'll find out that there are it has advantages for certain things. You know, it is a something. It is may tamtitz, may gave him. There's that has a certain kind of status to it, but it's not really important. But I can't really say. You know, I'm a little bit tongue-tied to answer your question because it can't be kosher beforehand because we're talking about a mikveh. A mikveh needs saboim saw. It's just choser shiur. It's not. There's no qualitative problem. There's a quantitative problem.
They both cases are missing something.
I think so. The Reisha and the Seifa.
And the Sefer is not talking about one of the. So what's the difference between the Reisha and the Sefer then? If they're both missing something,
I don't think there's a difference really. It's just reiterating a problem.
Okay.
Let's see. Let's read it again. Maybe I'll catch something I didn't catch before. All these things are Mamala the shear of a mikvah, and they don't passel because of shuvim. Why don't they passel because of shuvim?
Because they're enough, not like water, to run into the gzera of Chazal of the Shlosha Lugimayim shenaflu into mikvah.
Excellent. No, but the problem was, and this is what we asked last time, what about them is not water?
I mean, I'd be hesitant to say about Mara, but
That's interesting. That's definitely interesting. No, that there is a mission about Mara. We're just not there yet. But I like that idea. Doesn't seem to be though that that's the. That's very interesting idea. All right. Anyways, I'll just throw out something that some of the Achrayim say. Two things. Let's start with two things. These are variables that are used over here in the discussion in the Achrayim. But one thing is that sheleg was never water. When you have ice on your lake, you have water that froze, and then it goes back to water. Sheleg, even though I'm aware that before it came to a certain place in the atmosphere, it was also rain, and then it turned into snow. But sheleg, as far as we're concerned, was never water. And as we know that it's made up of the same ingredients. We're not, that's not what we're discussing. But I think that there's a fascinating idea. I saw one of the Achrayim. Water is makabel tumah. Why? Because water is a food. What's sheleg? Is sheleg a food?
I've eaten it.
You have or haven't? I'm not even sure the answer.
I have eaten it.
That's because somebody stuffed it in your face, probably, right?
Whatever, because it was fun. It was like a cold sucking candy,
Yeah, no, I understand, but that's does that make it into food?
What makes it a food?
That's you want to know what my answer to that question?
Please.
Something that people eat.
You
could buy Maser Sheni with it?
What?
You could buy Maser Sheni with it?
You're asking me a halacha question? No.
So then it's not a food, maybe.
But how do I? You didn't ask me. How do I know that, right? Because you had their cheretz maybe. But I know that because the Rambam says that shelling is not metama to a seichel. But it didn't. That didn't answer the question of what makes something a food and what not. No, just the question. I'm not trying to split hairs. There's two different subjects. There's one is what is the halacha? Then there's a question of why is it like that? I asked you a question. Why? I asked you a question. Is it food? So you asked me what is the definition of food, which is a very good.
If I say that I don't believe it's a food, I challenge you to say that it's a food.
You could do that. That's fine. Well, you just have to tell me what your definition of food is.
Something that you could buy Maser Sheni with.
No. That's a halacha. But maybe we'll decide that if it's a food or not a food. I don't recall the halacha, but I wouldn't be surprised that you're allowed to buy kameim with pitriot with Meiser Shady, even though they're not a food.
Maybe they are a food then, if you could buy it.
But whether you could buy Meiser or use Meiser Shady or not, that is not a definition. That's a litmus test, possibly. We're looking right now for a definition.
But how do you know how to define it?
So you're right. That's a good question. So I don't really know how to define it. I just gave you I think the Rambam is a pretty clear indication of the fact. If he says that's not matam to masaychlin, right? That's an indication that it's not a food. But it's not the way that it is right now. This is I want snow in order to be consumed. The pashtus has to undergo a process. Regular food, let's say your potato or your meat, your egg, whatever it is that we're talking about, even though they have to undergo that process, but being that that's their purpose, so we see them as that item beforehand. This is what I understand. My raya to this is from the most brachas that made the most no sense to me when I was younger, is the bracha that you say on wine. That bracha makes absolutely no sense to me. What is the meaning of Bari Priyagofen?
Fruit of the vine.
Oh, I didn't ask you to translate it. I could have translated it myself. Then I didn't need, even before they had art school, I knew the translation.
Right,
It's not the fruit of the vine.
Right.
It's the produce of the vine.
It's not the produce of the vine.
Of course it is.
Of course it is.
That's why they plant the vine.
Whoa. Wow. So we should say, I'll ask you this question. If you thought that was a strange bracha, I'll tell you another strange one. Could you please explain to me this? Hamoitzi lechem min haaretz. When's the last time you saw it come with an angel's bag out of the ground?
When I was in Gan Eden.
Okay. How was it?
It was like Gan Eden.
Right? How can you? What does that mean? Hamoitzi lechem min haaretz. So I think that the answer is correct. That the Saif Maisev and Machshava Tchila, so to speak, that the end product, that's what we call the fruit. The fruit does not mean the thing that grows. The fruit means the finishing line, the
end, the end product.
The end product, right? Okay, so if that's the case, then we'll start over there. So when I see water, so water is something which is slated. People, that's what people eat. Snow, you have to make it into food. It's not on that assembly line. Now, one may argue that when it rains, so that's not being used as food because it's used in the ground, it goes into the ocean, whatever it does. That's true, but it's the same thing as what you eat. There is no process that it has to go through to make it into food. Whereas snow, that we don't see that, not that we don't know that you could eat it. It's not slated as food.
So if I go into the Makol and I buy a barad, what am I doing?
Wasting money.
Other than that,
What do you mean? You made it into food. I didn't say that. The Halacha Rambam says that snow b'machshava becomes a food. You can. It's not chiseled in stone. This is not. We're not in Russia over here. But that's not the stomach. The stomach of it is not that. Are people with me? Okay, so anyways, this is an idea. So we see it as something else, being that it's something else, and we'll fill in what Yechiel said beforehand. The Gzera of Mayim She'uvim was on water. And this, we don't see it as water. Not that we don't know that it could be water. That's not the subject over here. The subject is what is it? All right.
why don't we apply the same rule to kitnios, that the gzera was on the grains and not on the oils?
First of all, I know it's, when I say I'm lost at the question. What I just said now is something which wasn't simple before we started, and I mean machalish atzad. So you're saying now, wow, once there's such a tzad, maybe it should apply everywhere. That's not a fair jump. There's a question that has to be asked. What is it that we said about what? That's all. Now, I will just tell you, this idea of what we're talking about is, and especially on kitnius, is exactly the opposite. Because if let's use, do you know anybody who eats cotton? So in the food department, it's cotton oil. Who says, and it is made, people do make cotton oil out of it. That's a thing which is done. If I'm not mistaken, you go to the store and you'll see it. So it could be it'll work, that this will work just the exact opposite. They'll make it usher over there.
Cotton would be the exception. Let's talk about canola or peanuts or something.
Yeah, all of those things.
They're not grown for oil. They haven't. You can make oil from it.
That's one of the things that they're grown for. It's not true. That's why I'm saying peanut butter isn't made to make peanut oil. So that's one of the uses of it.
It's a use of it, but it's not the main thing it's grown for.
So main thing. I'll just tell you, I want to share with you, we said this, we learned Hilchos Brachos by about 15 years ago. This Chiddush from Rosh Shlomo Zalman Auerbach, which I can make a Birchas Anenin on. It's a beautiful svara. The halacha is that something which is smashed and is unrecognizable, it loses its bracha and it becomes a shahako, unless the preferred way that food is eaten is in that smashed fashion. And the Mishnah Berurah, all the places can say the way that we decide that is by roiv. How is it b'roiv eaten? Everything that I said until now is true. Comes the shoyal and asks of Shlomo Zalman the following fantastic question. He spoke to the USDA and they told him that the bulk of peanuts in America are used to make peanut butter. And he said, being that that's the case, so you should make a hadama on peanut butter. That was his question. Now, this question asked Reb Shlomo Zalman. I just want to make this question more beautiful. Reb Shlomo Zalman is the one who says that on chocolate you should possibly make a 8, because the only way that people eat chocolate is that they smash it up and they make it into chocolate. So this is the way that it's used. So it almost is asking Reb Shlomo Zalman's shita, and he doesn't agree with himself. Shlomo Zalman says a fascinating difference. Shlomo Zalman says that the reason why people eat peanut butter is because they need a spread for their bread. It's not because peanuts taste better like that. It has nothing to do with the way peanuts taste. Peanuts taste lechatchila, fine, great, wonderful as peanuts. Not only that, you could even buy chunky. There's no gray in the peanut in the natural, and that which it says that you go by roiv, what the halacha meant didn't mean that you check it out what percentage. It meant to say if that's the way, if that's what most people eat, it must be that's the best way for it to be eaten. The fact that peanut butter is the most popular end product of peanuts doesn't mean that that's the way peanuts taste best. Okay, I don't know if any of you people enjoyed this one. I think it's an unbelievable, it's an insightful idea in understanding what's going on. Anyways, so I do believe that these things are used products of things, and that's what. Chani, you have to be quiet. All right. Now, so anyway, that's the aleph. According to this idea, so the reason why they're now Gzei Shuvim is because these are not slated for water consumption items. Okay. All right. The Ravid has a long piece over here. There's a big machlekes, the Rambam and the Ravid and the Rizah. And the Rizah disagrees with everything that we just said right now. Let me just get my. I'm reading right now the Rizah, and then we will go back to the Ravid. You don't have this, do you? You people, parrots, do you have a Ravid? Bali Nefesh? Look, I send you up. Let me just, we'll do this the easy way. 1 second.
I think someone brought it down, the Ravid.
I think it's in the Melecha Shlomo.
One second. How do I turn this thing around?
As it, Tiferet Yisrael brings down the Ravid.
Here. Okay. Paris, I just sent it to you.
Okay.
I think, I don't know if I got a good shot of it or not.
Okay. It's a little bit blurry.
Yeah, I got a better one over here. I'm not very good at this.
Okay,
You got it?
got it. Okay. Share it here.
Okay, let's start.
We need
Yeah,
the
but
top.
let's start from the result. You could skip my notes. Kosovo zer Rabbeinu mikan ki hasheleg afa pi shemordu v'nosol techa mikvah. You put it into the mikvah. L'daya she'ena posel b'shum shov. Not only does it defy the halacha of shov, el shu mashlu memsa. V'anu tmeim mehechem lamad b'medida v'aso anshe mikvah hamikvah v'chulo o shehevias hasheleg b'kelim. How do you know that they brought the mikvah in a kli? Shema b'yadeyim asu. V'hocho im hakarka k'oises sheshanim v'tesefta. That they did it, they brought it somehow. They brought it somehow without having any kalim. They brought it in their hands, etc. Let's skip to the next side. Ela shafta avo b'mamshech v'yadu v'raglo v'na'or v'makom dayo, etc. V'afilu b'chol ha'mikvah shem resenu shaninu ha'mesalekes atit l'tzdadim kosher. Inami yesh lever ma'asan shedim hevi ha'sheleg al gabi tavla shenavaz. They brought it onto a board and they put it under the tzino, etc. V'mlav ena poislas ha'mikvah. Okay. Okay. Ma'ashum raya she'ena she'eva poislas ha'sheleg v'nira lanu she'dayenu dino kedin mayim bein lifsol bein lahachsher. Mikol hoyn v'oisher ma'merutza amrei yosher. The Kitzer, he disagrees with the Ravid, and he says that there is a problem of shov. This that you're allowed to make a mikvah, mylin doesn't mean that it's not water. And the Ravid says that it has a din of water, and it doesn't have a problem of shov. And this is, I'm starting off over here because this is a stira, so to speak. This is the stira which needs to be answered. How could it be that it's...
Well, if there is such a thing, why doesn't the Mishnah say Elu Mali Mu Poslim? Mishnah doesn't give a category like that.
The Mishnah doesn't give... It doesn't say Yesh Malim, it doesn't say Yesh Malim Mu Poslim.
That doesn't exist. There doesn't exist Malim and Poslim.
We just said there is. We just said there is.
How?
The snow. It could be mala or it could be postal. Depends how you do it. Also water.
Well, because that's water is Malim Poslim. That's obviously.
Even shuvim depends how you do it. If you pour it on the ground, it's mala. If you pour it straight in the mikveh, it's postal.
You're a cheater. If you pour it onto the ground, it's not mila.
Of course it is.
You mean if you made hamshacha?
Yeah.
That's not what you said.
Pouring on the ground, it's hamshacha. You pour on the ground.
So they know. So water isn't mila. Shuvim isn't mila. Hamshacha makes the water into non-shuvim, and it becomes kosher water. You're denying the step that happened.
Is that what it does? It makes it not shuvim, or just shuvim that goes in that way is not posel?
So again, I think that those who say that the hamshacha works as an idea of zriya, that we look at it as we're born again.
I thought it was just that the din is that if you pour mayim shuvim, then it's posel, but if you do it another way, it's not posel.
That is a different halacha, but that's not the halacha of hamshacha. That's a different halacha. That if they have, one al yad the other, it's not going to make it into a problem. The other halachas that you have to be that you poured it in. But that's not the halacha of shuvim. That was a mikvah gabi mikvah that we saw that idea that just because they're mixed, but if you can see them as different things, then it's still kosher. So, but here this result, brings, accentuates the problem of our Mishnah. Why should it be? Is it water or isn't it water? If it's water, so then it should be a problem of shov. And if it's not water, it shouldn't be a problem of shov. How do you separate the two? That's the question over here. Anybody want to try to answer that question?
I did not understand the question.
I'm asking a poshup. It's a mamash a poshup shot question. The chayra, the two things are a stira. If it's maila, so then it should be paisel.
It shouldn't be.
Anything that's water should also take care of should have the problem. It should have the issue of being shuvim.
Right.
So how are we going to answer that question? What?
Isn't this what we started? That's how we started this year, right?
Yeah. And so we answered this question.
Right.
How did we answer this question?
We said that water.
We said that it's not. No. That was one way. But if that's the case, so why is it mashlim? Right. That was
not really water, but it has the halacha of water.
Wow, you could be a lawyer.
Thank you.
That was an insult. What does that mean? What is it water or isn't it water? What makes it water?
It's like the food you didn't want to answer before. What makes it a food? This has a halacha of water that it's mala, but it doesn't have a halacha of water that it's shov, that it's posel.
So this needs to be explained. I agree.
You told us this last week.
That's right, but we're going to go further today, hopefully. But this is the setup over here. I'm showing the issue, from a different vantage point. How do we deal with this? How do we deal with this issue? So there are a few answers to the question. One answer to the question is that it's taka, not water, b'chlal. Where is the nafkamina that it's not water, b'chlal, and yet it has the din of water? I'm going to tell you a raya to it, and then we'll explain to you this idea. There's a halacha in Shulchan Aruch, which is really, it's a brisa later on, but it's easier to have the Shulchan Aruch here. Kol shetchilas briyasa min hamayim, anything which is created from the water. We discussed a little bit last week. Kigon, yachvushim, adumim, these kinds of bugs that are water-related things. Matgilim boy, umatgilim be'eno shel da'agado, shenimuk, shumin enoi bechoro. Anything which is created out of the water or in the water has a din of water, and you can toivel in there. There's nobody that's going to tell you that a fish is a piece of water. But tchilas biyoso min hamayim is enough.
That it's not chotzeitz.
It's more than that. You could toivel in it, maybe.
Can I add fish to my mikveh and make it 40 saw?
I think so.
Wow.
I think that's what we just said. We maybe said more than that. So there are those that tell us that that's exactly the nakuda over here. Sheleg is not water. And therefore, it doesn't pasul b'shiva. But it's just like those things that tchilas briyasa min hamayim, that it can be mashlim the shir. The shitas arrived is that it can be mashlim the shir, but it doesn't have psula shuvim. And you cannot make, the Ravid says, you cannot make a mikveh out of snow alone, let it melt, because when it came there wasn't kosher for tefillah. And all the achrayim are busy trying to explain what in the world is the Ravid talking about. What's he trying to say? So what I understand what he's trying to say is that it's not water. It's not water, but it has some water-like dinim because it's very much like water. And that's why it has these halachas. All right. That's one nekuda. Now, another nekuda I wanted to say over I was looking around on the question which we discussed last week about toiveling in the snow, that the snow isn't touching all of you. So Ari Waldman said last week that it's like a piece of mazoinus, that the air holes aren't mafria. I don't know what you call them. They count. I don't know how you say that exactly. Them the chazit the tzuruf into the shir. What?
The mitzaref, yeah.
Yeah, the chazit starts to the shir, and I believe that's a good analogy to what we're talking about over here. But there's a question that's asked by Sister Chaim Greneman is disturbed. He says that what is the chibur between one piece of snow and the next? How, this is a lumdisha question, not a physical question. How do you toivel in arboim saw of snow? How is there such a thing as arboim saw of snow? And to make this clear, tell you a person has a when in America they used to sell them figs on this string. There was like a round thing of figs, and you used to pull them off the string in the middle of them. You know what I'm talking about?
Yes,
Yeah.
of
Okay.
course.
Igule Devela.
Yeah, but Igule Dvela, I don't know how many people over here have experienced an Igule Dvela. But when I was a kid, that was the way that they sold figs in America. They had them on this, pressed together. So there's a question in Tyrus, if a person touches one of those figs, do they all become tamei or not? Is it one thing or is it a bunch of things? No, they're pressed together and became
Chagiga. It's a Gemara Chagiga also.
correct. So that's the question over here. Is there such a thing as arboim saw of snow? Because Allah is that if you touch snow, the rest of the snow doesn't become tummy. Because the snow is different flakes.
What's the difference between the snow and like the gal that comes over in one gal?
But water, there's no such thing as a drop of water. Water is it's mitarbev. It becomes one thing. Snow, you have like pieces of sand. There's no connection between one and the other, is there? One will be a rishon, the second a sheni, shlishi, etc. But your water, it's one body. It's not. There's nothing to divide. There's no pieces to it. Your sand, there are pieces to it, and your water is one unit. You could make it smaller, but as long as it's attached, it's only one thing. Yeah, you with me, Shlomo? So this is a question which he asks: how do you toivel in arboim sav snow? In other words, how do you get yourself arboim sav snow? So I believe that there's a few answers to that question, but he actually disproves the question. He proves right, for everybody says that it's mitzaref to arboim saw. So it's mitzaref to arboim saw. It has to be that somehow it relates to its environment. And it says it has to be that even if the outside is touching water, but the inside isn't touching water, so it has to be that it's attached. But that's one of the nekudot. The other nekuda which he discusses is he says that the halacha of tefillah is that you have to v'rochas es b'tzoroi b'mayim. Being in snow, is that a rachitza?
Unless it melts up against the body, it's hard to imagine that.
Okay, all right. I'll tell you, I'm not really sure I buy into this one. I know that Sheffer is getting schar for not shouting at me. Would you please define what is rechitza?
No, but rechitza is only by mitzvah. It's not by every tameh.
I think, but that's we learn it all. It's all the same. I don't think there's any ways that says that that's you do a tefillah.
Tefillah is not rechitza.
What is brachas b'tzara? What does it mean? The kohen gadol is brachas b'tzara. What does it mean? Tova. Is that true or not true?
Without looking at it, I can't comment on it, sir. I have to.
You
I
would
will have to go back. I'll go back and look. I can't. I hear. Okay.
Okay. Anyways, I'm not sure that those questions really bother me at all. I'm just pointing them out. But he tries to go to the extent he doesn't want to allow anybody to tovel in snow at all. He can't be master that there's such a thing, even though Shulchan Aruch it says clearly that one's allowed to. Okay, and I don't believe there's any problem. I think that Shlomo's right, that just like Gal Shenitlash, and Ari is right, just like the cake, the holes are mitzaref. We see it as one thing. That's all. Now it could be that it has to be within some kind of a container. I don't mean a kli. I mean a receptacle. A karka, and that could be afforded. All right.
Also, don't we say that it's not till you come out of the water?
Yeah. So
is it one act or it's not? So it's not like it's one unit of.
Well, you come out of it,
or whatever you're going to call it. When you come out of it, so you're in the snow,
but you have to have
rolling around.
But the it that we're talking about, it has to be a package of our boim saw. So that's a question: can snow create a package, or a small bunch of flakes? That's
if you had an avalanche.
Yeah.
And then in the Rockies, I don't know. And it came over you in the whole way. It came over you in one massive amount.
I understand, but that's not saying it doesn't make a difference how many. If a person buries himself in sand on the beach, he has 1 billion crystals of sand on him. He doesn't have sand. There's, you know what? This is incorrect grammatically, but I think it's a good mashal. There's no such thing as a plural for water. You can have a lot of water, little water. There's no waters. When we say waters, we mean different bodies of water. We don't mean, there's no such thing as, it's one thing, right? The sands, when you say sand, we also discuss it like that, but it's never became one. The granules of sand do not merge into one thing.
Snow adheres to each other much more than liquid water does. I have no idea if that's true or not. My memory of chemistry would tell me otherwise. Liquids, they're further. The molecules are further apart.
If you fill your cup of water, you will see that it has a kippah, and that's because of the negative electrons on the outside. The outside circle
there is that, but there's much more by snow.
The snow, they stay individually. They never mingle. They stay individual flakes.
What does it mean that they mingle, or
there's no point? Size? They do not become one. They lay one next to the other.
Water is only one.
Two magnets do not become one.
Water only becomes one when it's held together in the container by something else. Water itself is not one.
I don't think that's true. You have a thing called a puddle.
That's being held by the gravity. It's a lower area.
It's not being held by anything.
But even on a flat
table,
put two drops together.
Your puddle looks like this. Your puddle doesn't look like
Yeah,
this.
there is surface tension, but with snow, it'll be a lot more together than the water.
It's not together, they're individual. The snow stays individual flakes. All right, we're gonna stop over here. We'll have to wait for our next snowstorm.
So it has to be an ashbaran. All this has to end up in an ashbaran or a
I
mikvah.
mean, no is always ashbar. Snow doesn't run.
Let's say I have a snow plow, a big shovel, 40 saw shovel full of snow. Can I cover in that?
Could be.
Why? Yeah, it's the why? Yeah.
No, you're not telling. You don't mean that you're not being held in the. You're talking about pushing it. It's talking about it's pushing it.
Or it's in the kaf. I jump into the kaf.
No, then you make table in a kli.
Oh, it's a kli, even though it's bigger than 40 saw.
Even though it's bigger than 40 saw. Every mikvah is 40 saw, right? It ain't talking about Mikalim.
Right, because that's in the ground, right? Okay.
Does the snow not have to be in a contained area?
I don't have 100% clear answer to that. I would hope that the answer is yes. But I think it has to do with the mission of Gal Shenitlash. If you can be table in it, if it has to be in a receptacle over there, then it does over here.
But didn't you tell us for many weeks that it has to be in a contained area? That's called mikveh?
Yes. I said that's why I said I believe. I hope that it's true. I'm not,
Okay. Thank you.
Okay. Have a good night.
Very much.
Yeah, Shakaya,
Okay.
thank you.